taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This is Augmented Reality,
Presented by the Triple S League.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, July 18th, 2020. This is your source for news, leaks, and insights about games in the gaming industry. Saturday edition of the show, always fun. My name is Ash. I'm here as always with Cybsidian. How are you doing today, sir?
Hello. Good. I may have some audio glitches today, but other than that, I think everything's going really good. It's been probably one of the best weeks of my life. So yeah, things are good.
And I know why, but I'm not going to share out of turn. But anyway, we also have a special guest with us today. She's maybe familiar to you if you're active on our Discord server. We've got Moontag with us. Good morning.
Hi there. Good morning.
And so it's about time we gave her an official introduction. She has, she is a friend. She is somebody who has kind of been helping us with the channel and various things behind the scenes for a while. And we finally got her onto the podcast. So thanks for joining us. And we, specifically, you're going to be giving your thoughts on the Gamer Girl trailer.
That's right.
That very interesting trailer for that very interesting game that was announced, and then and then the company decided to, pull all of that down off the internet in response to an insane amount of backlash. Really good PR and all that. But we also have some Cyberpunk news to talk about. A bunch of people saying hello in the chat. So yeah, Swordcester says, I think I remember her from Twitch. Yeah, you did do some streaming, didn't you? And there's plans for more of that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right.
Yeah, Luna's okay. So Cyb kept calling her Luna, so now I might just have to call you Luna because that's the name that's
okay.
like in my head now. Moontag, yeah, she's been around for a while in the background. She was actually with us at a convention last year. Lots of cool stuff going on. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good that we're able to start slowly expanding our team here. If you're listening live this morning, please do say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll be talking about a number of things that you put in the content requests channel yesterday, a bunch of you on the Discord server. We'll get to as many as we can. We can't get to all the topics, unfortunately. We do have some Cyberpunk stuff to talk about. There's a new dev interview. Actually, there's a whole article that's been, I don't know if it's been leaked or officially released to other press or whatever from Edge magazine. They did quite the spread on Cyberpunk 2077. We're not going to talk about all of it, but there is an interview in there, a Q&A with level designer Max Pierce. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And a bunch of other stuff. So do slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. All right. Where should we start? Gamer Girl or Cyberpunk? Do we want the one that sparks joy, or do we want the one that does not spark joy first? I love that meme, by the way. I don't know what it is about it. I just find it hilarious, and so to have the opportunity to put it on the graphic today, I just, that was a lot of fun.
It's simple and direct. It's pretty great.
So where are we starting? Let's talk about Gamer Girl.
Again, my audio keeps clipping out here, so yeah, let's do that.
So Gamer Girl, and I spent some time. I jumped in on one of the audio rooms on our Discord server to talk about this. Some of the ladies who are on our server were there, and some guys as well. It's a great place, by the way. If you're not on the Discord server, join up. There's a lot of in-server streaming going on now. People, with new games they have, playing them right on the server and streaming them. So there's the opportunity to check out some games that you may be wanting to see gameplay from, and just to chill and hang out. It's a good time. And we're actually going to be talking about Ghost of Tsushima today too, which some people have been streaming on our server, which is really awesome. So this trailer for Gamer Girl, I think it came out yesterday, but anyway, I found out about it yesterday, and by the time I had discovered it, the backlash had already done its thing. The tsunami of backlash had hit ground, and the developer and publisher, they pulled the trailer down from everywhere they had put it up, and they asked Sony to take it down from Sony's official YouTube channel. It's not a Sony product. It's like going to be released on PlayStation, but it was like the trailer was up on the PlayStation channel, and it disappeared from there. But it's still up available on, a bunch of other places. Like you can find it. You could also find reactions to it. Alana, what's her last name? Alana Pierce, the former IGN writer.
I think so. Yeah.
She
also has done. I think she's also done work with Rooster Teeth and a couple others. I think it was a few years ago. But yeah, no, her response was pretty like spot on too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, I understand what Moontag and I were talking about it beforehand, and we'll kind of get into it. But it's like I kind of get what they were going for. They were going for kind of like a Blair Witch kind of like interactability thing, and they chose a bunch of like cool concepts that are cool on their own. But when you combine them all together in the way that they did with the power dynamic that they chose for the player character to be interacting with the main character, it came out to be like this horrendous, really weird thing.
Yeah. So the premise, if you haven't seen it, and then as soon as I'll get Moontag to jump in here as soon as I describe the premise, but it's basically it's a full motion video game. So basically, it's fully acted, recorded video, but it's like kind of a choose your own adventure style story. But it casts you, the player, as a moderator for an up and coming streamer named AbbyCake99. Cringe. That is just a terrible streamer name. That's like your 1998 Hotmail email address when you're 13. Kind of a name.
That totally made me think of making my first email when I was in junior high.
Yeah. So it was just right there. That's just so bad. So anyway, it's also kind of a horror, like Saib said, kind of a Blair Witch thing, or kind of a I don't know if you ever saw that movie where the entire movie takes place on the screen of a computer, and it's like a horror movie. But it's basically it casts the player as a moderator on this stream, and you have to deal with trolls and assholes in the chat. But you basically make decisions for this streamer, kind of a thing, and decide on the branching path of the game. For example, you can she gets a call, or she's worried about her boyfriend or something, and then you get to decide if she goes by herself to check on him or to take a friend along. And it's a horror premise too. Like it's there's somebody or something kind of stalking her. There's apparently a very devious person hiding in her chat who does not want who wants. There's a villain hiding in the chat somewhere. And we don't know too much about the story beyond that. But anyway, your thoughts though, your impressions, Moontag, on when you watch this.
So, like, I also heard of it for the first time yesterday, and I initially thought it was going to be a first-person player as a streamer, but then it quickly set up the environment for, like, I thought, is this a dating sim now? But, like, with the moderator being the one controlling and influencing her actions, rather than, like, say, playing as the streamer herself, or, like, as a friend who's, like, jumping in to help her. Like, she's just like, hey, thanks for being my new mod. And, like, there's no sort of rapport built there.
Right.
So, like, then afterwards, as the video played on, and, like, you get, like, this shot of this guy who's berating her for streaming. And I'm like, who is this guy? What right does he have to be telling her what to do? And then she's like, hey, he's, like, not replying to my texts. Should I go check on him? I'm like, that's very concerning behavior for me. Because, like, there's a guy who is now, like, withheld his approval for something about her, and now she's like, hey, should I go chase after this toxic person?
Yeah.
And
Apparently,
like
that's
just
her boyfriend, like her
Mm-hmm.
IRL boyfriend.
oh,
If I understand the premise correctly, that's her. That's her boyfriend. Yeah.
that that doesn't seem like a very good guy to chase after,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And then to be presented with the choice of going to the spooky harbor to check on him with a friend or without a friend, and like it's really disconcerting. Like, why wouldn't she be like, hey, maybe I should call like a mental health line if he's like been exhibiting really concerning behavior like that? Like,
Mm-hmm. Right.
there's so many other options, and just the ones that they presented here, just like, it's really creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, creepy is the first thing that I really felt about it. And like again, it's like if they had a thing where, you're trying to like, you're moderating for like, maybe somebody who's a little bit younger, and it's like you're playing like the role of like their dad or something, and helping them to like figure out like how to like resist the social pressure of like negativity and a bunch of this other stuff. It's like that I could get behind that as a story. Like that would actually make more sense than what it comes out as, which is like it introduces this like romantic aspect to it, which is an off-base power dynamic. And whenever you have a relationship that has a completely off-base power dynamic, it, it's going to end up causing problems for sure. Like it's just going to end up really wrecking relationships and your life and that kind of stuff, because it's like when that's off, it's off, you know, and it's very unhealthy. And that's kind of the thing that set off a big warning like siren in my head, is like, wow, this is really
Mm-hmm.
not good. And that's, I think, why they pulled it down so quickly. But it's like even then, like for the most part, the damage has already been done,
Right.
because they just, yeah, because they're chasing after this again, the concept of like, having this mystery, or like having the streamer who's dealing with like somebody who's, they're having kind of a hard time, and then they disappear, and they go there, and it launches this like horror, like, kind of like puzzle solver investigation. Again, that's a great concept for a game, but
I think we just lost Saib. Unfortunately, I don't know what's going on with his audio, but Ravi Dada says, does this?
because you have this weird power dynamic, you're disturbing. Oh no,
Oh, now you're back. Okay, and YouTube's
I'm
glitching
back.
out.
Like I
So
said, audio's bad today. Yeah, like I said,
the whole,
audio. Yeah, keep talking.
the internet is. I mean, okay, something is. So we had the massive Twitter hack the other day, and then what was it like yesterday? Like a whole bunch of sites and servers went down for some unexplainable reason. Uh, yeah, something's going on. Anyway, YouTube's telling me it's not receiving enough data to maintain smooth streaming. So if there's any glitches, I really apologize for that. Hopefully, we're going to continue having a smooth stream. Ravi Dada asks, does this game have a plot twist where you are the horrible guy? Well, that could, it's possible they would go in that kind of a direction with it. And maybe they're trying to make a point there. I actually do have although they pulled the trailers and everything, the publisher Wales Interactive still does have a Twitter thread up explaining the premise of the game. And they say, Gamer Girl is about the impact user comments and actions have on a streamer's mental health and well-being. The reason why FMV Future, that's the developer, created the game was to raise the issue of the toxic environment which can often appear online behind the anonymity of a username. Without giving too much away, Gamer Girl is an empowering story of a female streamer who, with the help of her moderator friend, battles the trolls and overcomes the toxic characters in her stream. Gamer Girl was co-written by Alexandra Burton, the lead actress who improvised the entire script. And the research into streaming content of the game, apparently they researched for 4 years and they interviewed dozens of female streamers. All right. So, yeah, that's that's the publisher's description of the premise of the game. But it does feel like this massive mismatch. Like if you want to make a horror game, make a horror game.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make a game about a toxic streaming, like combining the two seems like an odd choice. And especially if you're going to put the player in the perspective of a moderator who she turns to and leans on for every decision she makes. Like you have that shot in the trailer of her getting an IRL phone call while on stream. Her phone rings and it's like unknown number, and she's like, What do I do, mod? What do I do? Which no streamer ever does, by the way.
No, if I see a number I don't recognize, I let it go to voicemail, and if it's important enough, they'll leave a message.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, you got this impression like she was leaning on this moderator for everything. And let's be honest, who's going to be playing this game?
Yeah, 'cause
Guys.
it's like, it'd be totally different if the moderator position was actually like a conscience or something, rather than like a third person influencing another person.
Right, like what should I do? Like here, you're playing as the character. Like, yeah, that would be, that would certainly, I think, have fixed some of the some of what people reacted negatively to.
Yeah, right.
Now, personally, strictly from the premise of a horror game, the idea of being a mod for a streamer and then having that streamer, having something bad happen or worrying that something bad's going to happen and some strange things start happening and you have to kind of take action, that could be a cool premise for a horror game.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd get that feeling of like being cut off and distant and like, what can I do to help? Maybe feeling isolated. Cool horror game premise, but then the fact that the main character is kind of this terrible stereotype of a girl gamer, kind of.
Well, I wouldn't say horrible stereotype. I'd say just
Very
generally, very basic and not very good. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't get that. Yeah, and I don't get that how or why some people think that a relationship has to be like, or not relationship. Why a streamer personality has to be like, just like, not very smart, and like that seems kind of weird that they would denigrate that into that position.
But also just kind of playing into this stereotypical idea that for a female streamer, it's all about sex appeal. Like, they call it gamer girl, and she doesn't do any gaming. Like, there's one shot in the trailer of her playing a game. Go ahead, Mootag. You were having some connection issues there, but I want to hear what you have to say here.
Oh no, that's totally true. Because it's like I said, the initial title gives you the impression that you're playing with a gamer girl, and yet she is asking you for basically help dealing with life. And I'm just like, I don't really identify with this person. Like I said before, it would be different if it was being played from a first person point of view as the streamer or the gamer girl herself, right? But it's such a weird perspective to be playing from an outside person, because she probably doesn't even meet the mod, right? What if the story leads up to her going to investigate the spooky boat, and then you as a moderator is like, hey, we lost contact with her, let's go search for her.
Yeah, the process could have been a little bit just done a little bit better. The way that it has is just, it's off. It's so off, and it's so weird.
Yep. And a lot of the comments in the chat from some of the women we have, and I like I said, I talked to a couple of them yesterday, and the agreement was basically kind of the same. I mean, there was some diversity of opinion, but a lot of it echoed kind of women do not seem to be reacting well to this, especially female gamers do not seem to be reacting well to this concept at all. Now, is it possible that the trailer was just poorly done and it was a poor representation of what the game is really like, that's possible. That's possible that that's the case. We'll have
And
to
they
see.
may have done that to like maybe a big section of the writing is like purposely cringeful to be like to have kind of this comedy element, and we've seen this before where a game or a movie tries to be one thing and says, "Oh, hey, look, we're so silly, we're so funny," but then they try and spin it into being like, "Oh no, we're super serious." There was the one game that was made before there's one game that was made called Sunset Boulevard, I think it was, and it was originally this like campy, funny, like very humorous video game where it was such an old trailer. It's like all their abilities were zany and funny and quirky, and it felt almost kind of like this came out before Overwatch, and it felt kind of like this like funny Overwatch type thing. And it's like they had lots of like one-liners and jokes, and it looked like a hilarious game to play with friends and to just kind of buddy up and do these wacky zany stuff. But then after they put out that trailer, apparently it was like, oh, your game's not very serious, it's very childish, and they took this from a marketing company that's never ever ever released a popular game ever, or been behind the release of a popular game. And they told them all this stuff, and they said, hey, go back, you got to make it super serious. People want to see like, bullets flying and like really like, stern people. And then the new trailer, the new gameplay came out, and it was just like it had gone from something funny and campy to something like moody, and like it felt like you were talking with a super emo 14-year-old who was trying to be like really really cool, like trying to like I'm so cool, I don't care about life or anything. And it was just like the cringe factor went from like this funny zany quirky kind of thing to just this like, wow, this is so negative, it's not even funny. Like it's so weird. And then the game bombed hard, really hard, and just kind of dropped off the face of the planet. And then the devs later on, when they were talking about this, were like, no, the game was always supposed to be like that, and they were covering for their bad decisions of like following, like trusting this thing, because like they decided to double down on the concept of no, it was really actually a really good idea, but the internet didn't understand, and it was the internet's fault. It's our gamers' fault. That's why the game failed. It's not because we failed as a studio. It's like no. The game failed because of people on the internet and trolls and stuff. And that was their excuse. That was their like reason for it being so poorly received.
Yeah.
And this is what I feel that maybe happened here, is that maybe the original concept of the game was supposed to be more cringy, funny, like mocking the concepts of like streamer stuff before it went into like a horror movie type scenario. It's like maybe that's what was going on there, but whatever it was just metrically poorly done, just on a really really bad way.
All right. Any final thoughts on that? If not,
Well,
no. Sorry?
No, pretty much that was it.
Okay. Well, we'll see if they make another run at it and make another try to impress us with something about this game. But I have a feeling after this first impression, it's not going to do terribly well. Not that it necessarily would have anyway.
No.
I would have heavily encouraged them to just like realize that they made a mistake, and then immediately go for like a wacky zany kind of like take on it. It's like, no, man, it's supposed to be cringy. Like it's supposed to be a cringe game that you play, on stream with other streamers, and everybody stands around and laughs at the hilarity and insanity of it all. Going, oh my goodness, can you believe that? Oh wow, And doing that, that's what I think they should. If they wanted to save the game, that's what they should have done.
That's probably the best option.
Yeah, it was just be like, no, this is intentionally like creepy and weird, and it's just mocking the concepts of it because we're not taking this. This isn't something that you take seriously. And I think if they had done that, probably would have been a lot better.
And it might be an approach that works in terms of trying to do damage control. Of course, they're already on the record as saying, hey, this game is actually supposed to be serious, which isn't going to help them if they do decide to go in that direction.
Here, I'll give a quick guide to anybody who finds themselves in this situation. If you found yourself coming out with a product that nobody takes seriously, and yet you realize that no, it's a cringe fest and it's an absolute joke, and that your only way of saving the title is to basically go back to cringe, just pull a Michael Scott. You just come out and be like, no man, this is super serious. Okay, guys, super serious. It's like, I fell in the fishbowl, man. You're not supposed to laugh at that. When he fell into the water, and then just go that way and then feed into that. Almost kind of like a Borat kind of thing, where it's like, oh no, this is how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like this, but maintaining the inside joke essentially, and that will go a long way in making people go, oh, okay, this is a joke. We don't actually have to take this seriously. It's just because if you try to, oh Lord,
it reminds me of when I was a kid, when I was in grade 1 or 2, I fell off the monkey bars or something, and I don't know. People saw and were laughing, and it's like. I was like, oh, I did that on purpose. I actually like falling down. And I gained a reputation on the playground as the kid who likes falling down. It was weird. It was a weird thing from my childhood. Anyway. Because I'd have random kids be like, are you the kid that likes falling down? I'm like, yep.
Yep, that's my shtick.
I'm not even making this up, folks. This is real, unedited Ashenity here. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about that which sparks joy, Cyberpunk 2077, of course. So we had, this isn't brand new, but we had this 3D render of Hideo Kojima on the Cyberpunk motorbike. This is something that CD Projekt actually created and put out. So very curious, and it's got people. They announced, they put it out in a tweet that was like, congratulations on the PC launch of Death Stranding to Kojima. And so that was interesting, and it just they put it out beside a photograph of him at a convention or something, sitting on the bike. So he was there and had some interaction with them. So it's pretty cool. And then a lady behind him attacking with mantis blades. That's actually pretty funny. So that tweet is up, but yeah, they made this 3D render of him in the style of the 3D renders that they've been doing for all of their main characters for their games. So that it's interesting, and it's got people speculating, like, is he going to have a cameo in the game? I mean, that'd be cool. I don't know if I buy that theory, but
it's possible. I do remember hearing a rumor that when Kojima was running around doing the pre stuff before he started working on the Death Stranding, he was doing a studio tour essentially. I do remember hearing rumors that he went to cdpr. I'm sure that's may actually be fairly public knowledge, but I'm not actually 100% positive of how that went down. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was a kind of a big thing, and it might be public knowledge at this point, but he went around to, I think it was over a dozen studios. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
So
well, he was trying to be really innovative with Death Stranding, so he wanted to I
Yeah, he
guess
wanted to
that he
see
wanted to
everything
tour a
that
bunch of
everybody
studios.
had.
Yeah, to gather a bunch of information, see what everybody else was doing, draw some inspiration from a variety of places. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And again, what we see here now is what I was saying, all those years ago when we first kind of got this info. It's like Kojima was always interested in making this a PC title because it was a little bit different than the normal standard uh, PlayStation games. It was designed not to, and it's not insulting to say that. That's just how it was. It's like he always wanted this to be more of a cinematic experience, and he understood that you probably have a larger market for it on the PC instead of on the PlayStation. Um, and so that this was something like I understood right away, and I could see what he was trying to get at, and I could see what he was trying to like develop and why this was so important for him to kind of like push the game in this direction. Because this is, and again, it's like a lot of people didn't like Death Stranding so much, walking simulator, or they didn't, the concept was like really kind of weird and out there. But again, that's what you have to have in order to push the new gaming concepts, like to push boundaries, to really break out into and find new genres. It's like he was trying to like introduce this like heavier reliance with the rope instead of the stick, and I think that overall he's got a great idea, and that it was like it's as good as he can get with modern tech right now, and it was the only thing, it was probably the best that he could do with what he had. Because again, we keep talking about this, how the biggest importance of what people are missing right now is they're missing we're missing this next jump in AI tech to really like help you spur these relationships with these NPCs and make this world like a far more living and breathing, and find out what you like and then react to that like in live time. Like that's such a foreign concept for most people. It's like, because they don't understand that this, you may end up one day calling these people your friends, these NPCs, because they mean that much to you. And it's like right now we have a touch of that, but it's like we can definitely do way more. So yeah, it's really interesting in where he's going, and that's great. And then people do understand. They really do understand that this is tech that is coming, right? This is tech that is on its way.
Time Being has a solution for the AI tech jump. You just need to breed with another machine, Cyb, and
I'm working on it. It might not necessarily be breeding with a machine. Just might be breeding with a sex machine. So that's fun.
Well, that got blunt real fast. I was gonna say, is that why you ordered that data injection port? But anyway, so
that one fell
here's a very interesting question. Why? So for CDPR to honor Kojima, definitely definitely makes sense. But to go all the way to creating a 3D render, do you think did they do a 3D scan of him, or did they just kind of create him from scratch? And how did they have the resources to do that at this point when they're in the middle of trying to get this game out the door? This is a question that I had. I'm not I think it's a cool thing, but I'm just at the same time I'm like, what? How did they have time to make this, or was it just part of their marketing budget?
Well, so you got to remember that their marketing campaign, their marketing campaign is in full swing, right? Their bug crushing thing is in full swing. There's certain parts of the company that are no longer in full swing, such as the department that makes art like this. Like this is basically like a concept art, like special render, and this is not something that they're going to be doing right now very much, right? They've rendered all of the important NPCs for the book that's coming out, for like any of the bonus content, stuff like that. Like the next thing that they have to start working on in those departments, like the art department, is probably stuff for the expansion, because most of that stuff, like the out of game assets, most of that stuff is 100% that's already been, that's already been done basically. Like they're caught up on that. So now they're facing this idea of like, well, what do they do with, that spare time? And I think this is where they're starting to like, do outside extra projects like this. That's just kind of like what I'm guesstimating from everything that's going on. That's nothing inside or internal or anything like that.
Yeah, even just like, what if you could like go through the game and like you find these posters with him on it? Like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and we're gonna see a bunch of stuff like that both in and out of game.
I am sure there's going to be some Easter
cool
eggs. Yeah, I'm sure. Even just as a nod to the fans, we're probably going to see Siri in there somewhere. Not as a main character or anything, but
well, somebody who got into the game claimed that they found a Siri Easter egg, or that they found Siri, but because they couldn't really, do pictures and capture in game, that has been rumored, that rumor of like what's actually going on there, like that's still rumor. Like don't take it with a grain of salt right now, because again, somebody might have said that and then go, oh yeah, no, I just misunderstood, and they were actually just doing it for clicks. Like I don't mean to denigrate people into that perspective of like, oh no, they were just doing it for clicks. They may have like honestly misunderstood, or they actually did find it, but they just can't show the proof for it just right now. And again, that's not necessarily something negative that we're, pointing out. It's not like that. I think it's a good chance that they did, because this is something that everybody expects to see in it, 100%.
So yeah, might see Kojima, might find some other little Easter eggs in there as well. I'm sure there's gonna be a ton of stuff. This world, from the impressions that we have gotten from people who have gotten their hands on the game, this world is just massive. This world is dense. This world is surprisingly dense in terms of content, and just almost overwhelming. And that is the perspective of the author who wrote a recent article for Edge magazine on Cyberpunk 2077. We're not going to go through it all. There isn't time, but also, I don't want to just kind of steal the article's thunder, but I am going to read some snippets of the Q&A that they did with Max Pierce, who is a level designer for CD Projekt Red. We've heard from him before, but he of course works hard with the other level designers. Found out in here that they have a total of 9 level designers working at the company. That's a surprisingly low number. Now, to me, now that may be quest-specific environments. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you have to be really careful how you interpret this stuff, because what they might mean from level designer is not necessarily what we interpret as, what we're thinking level designer. Like, we're thinking level designer, we're thinking like, oh, you mean like this is, somebody who creates the levels of the map. And it's like that might be a map editor, and that the level designer is actually somebody who spends most of their time making the like the highly interactable mission set, so to speak, where we go in and we fight a particular gang in a particular area. That might be what that means, instead of what we think it means right now, which is like, oh, that's the person who's designing everything. It's like, no, not necessarily.
Yeah, and the designer too might not be the person who's actually modeling and putting the actual world together in the virtual space too. Like you might have a designer doing very detailed papers on it and then handing it over to a digital artist who puts it all together. So yeah, you're right. It depends on what they actually mean, but
Yeah.
he is definitely in some heavy way involved in designing some of the environments in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And
remember, also remember that they're. I've said before they are using certain AI tech. Now they've made the statement that no, they're not using any AI tech to design the missions or the maps or anything like that as a finished product. And that's the big thing that you have to remember. As a finished product, it's not procedurally generated, but you can certainly generate large sections of a city and then essentially use them as kind of like a base form tile set. Because again, we've gone over this. Nobody in their right mind is hiring somebody to design asphalt for the road from scratch, doing every square foot, having every square foot being uniquely different. That's insane. You just set up an algorithm to make that kind of a thing. And then you just have that stitch that together, and that happens as good or better than most people can. So,
all right, so let's go through some of the. What's that?
Super chat? Want to get the super chat, or you want me to?
Oh, we have a super chat
Me?
from Polly's 911. Thank you so much. Polly says CDPR spends time to fix bugs. 2077 comes out. Small hair. Someone spots a small hair clipping issue. Oh my gosh, so many bugs. This one does not spark joy. 0 out of 10 on IGN. Well, that's an interesting take. Thank you so much, Paulies. Always.
It's so true. It's so true. Oh, I mean, I keep harping on it, but the amount of people who are in this industry who are supposed to be skilled, experienced, understanding how this stuff works, and how they sit around and complain about like, oh my goodness, guys, don't you understand? Oh my god, guys, there was a purple square in the game. What this is a travesty. This is a nightmare. Who on earth came up with this? Somebody needs to be fired for this. It's like, no, that's normal. That's called a placeholder. What's a placeholder? I don't understand what that means. It's like I've had these conversations because I'm in a lot of dev discords, and it's like the constant like, guys, it's a work in progress. You know, I had this the other day. It's like it's clearly a work in progress, and some people are like, this is the end of the world. It's like, no, it's a work in progress, meaning that they haven't completed or perfected the idea of what they want to do with this right now. Does not mean that they're, you know, throwing your life away. You know, they're actively working on this stuff. But I found a block that doesn't look right, or it's like, or yeah, it's just
yeah,
it's a big headache. I can't believe the amount of stupidity that is encompassed in this stuff all the time, and it seems to be all the time.
I mean, that said, when the game releases, there are going to be bugs. I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there's going to be things they haven't accounted for. There's going to be things that people try that they hadn't thought of. I mean, this is a massive. You think about the size of your average video game compared to the size of any other software that you install.
Mm-hmm.
Video games are massively complex pieces of software. There's going to be bugs. Hopefully they're minor and are easily fixed, and et cetera, not game breaking, all of that. But there's going to be bugs. Like, count on it. There's going to be bugs on day one. No offense to anyone from CDPR listening. That's just the that's the same with any game, right? Like,
yeah, no, and the level of bugs, like, you know, do we get something like Anthem?
Right.
Anthem maybe is a bad experience or a bad example because it was a bad experience, not a buggy experience. But I mean, it was both. It was primarily just a bad experience. Aliens Colonial Marines probably a little bit better because that game really, like, most of the problems that game had boiled down to just the an inaccurate and broken mechanic as far as it came to like their AI. Their AI had their code wasn't fixed properly, wasn't like prepped properly, and then when it came out, it was like oh my god, that is some horrendous stuff here. Like, that's so bad. And yeah, so that obviously plays into that problem. So
All right.
did my audio cut out again?
Nope.
Oh,
We're good.
okay.
Let's get into some of the Q&A with Max Pierce now. So so he talks. So they asked him a bunch of questions. One is, how does open quest design affect level design? When there are so many ways to approach any given mission, how does that change the way you design a play space? And Max answered, it's one of the most freeing projects I've worked on in terms of just pure creativity, but also definitely an overwhelming one when you think about looking at a blank screen. But that fluidity of choice, whether that be your cyberware, your abilities, your perks, your guns, how you play, all of these really open up the space for us. So we're thinking about how all of these intertwine, because sometimes you're not going to just stick to one play style either. Really thinking about how we adapt the levels to give you that choice has been one of the biggest challenges for us as level designers, and also one of the most rewarding. It all comes down to constantly testing, playing it through in as many different ways as we can, and seeing how it plays out. I got to imagine it's probably a fun job, but probably also a really difficult job, because I mean, when you're designing things, you kind of get tunnel vision in a lot of ways. You know how this is supposed to go. You know the end kind of from the beginning, and so you're like, okay, I'm going to design it in a certain way. But then you kind of have to try to break yourself out of that, so you're seeing it as other people see it, people who don't have your pre-existing knowledge of it, and that's a big challenge. That's a big challenge to do that. That's why game testing is so important. I imagine they give it to, they probably give it to other people. Like, hey, play this through. Tell me what let's see how you do it. I know even from something as simple as designing, like I've made a few levels in Super Mario Maker, and then I watch I have it designed a certain way, and then I watch a friend play it, and they try things that I never would have anticipated. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. So we're talking about something way, way more complex, when we're talking about designing a level for a game like this. So, all right.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, it just reminded me of this thing that I saw on Facebook where people have this pentagram star, and at each point there's a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then people ask, how do you draw your stars? And then you indicate by the numbers how you draw your star to connect all the points of it. And there's a lot of ways that people do that. And it was really interesting to see in the comments there how many different ways people are wow, I thought everybody else drew it this way, the same as me. But no, there's so many different ways.
Interesting.
It's like, where do you start drawing from? That's a really interesting one. Another one along that same line is I hope this isn't too gross, but I've seen people's reaction when they discover this, and it's horrifying for most of them when you realize that going number 2, everybody has a different way of doing it, and then cleaning up afterwards.
Why are we talking about
And
this?
Because it's funny. It's funny when you see a room of people raise your hands if you do it this way, and then only 20% of the people raise their hands, and they're all horrified at everybody else, and everybody else is horrified at them, and they're like, "What in the world is going on?" And it breaks their mind. I'm not going to go into details, obviously, but I'm just saying it's a daily thing that everybody thinks everybody does it the same way that they do it, when in actuality there's 5 different ways of doing it. And it's what in the world? How is this a thing? So anyways,
Right.
I know. I had to lighten up the
All right, everybody.
make sure
please
everybody's
don't,
paying attention.
Please don't remove your like from the video.
On a cleaner note, there's also even just presented with 2 choices of how do you put your toilet paper roll, with the end hanging off towards you or against the wall.
Right?
Even that is a point of contention, apparently.
Anyone who puts it toward the wall clearly worships the devil.
Yeah, right?
See?
And then other people are like, why is this facing outward? That's gross. It doesn't roll correctly. And then other people are like, then the cat, of course, walks in and goes, what is this? It's all supposed to be on the floor, you stupid humans. And then they unroll the whole thing. So,
It's
yeah.
hilarious.
All right. So, yeah. So that's a good question for the developers. Which way do you have the toilet paper hanging in Cyberpunk? Do you do it the right way, or do you do it the wall way? So, another question they asked for Max Pierce is, how does the process begin? This is something that I've often been curious about. How do you account for everything that's going on in this game? All the abilities, and especially when things are in flux and they may add something, they may remove something later. How do you do that? But what they asked is, how does the process begin? Do you start by thinking about the story you're telling, where you are in the city, or the abilities? Like, where do you start? And Max says, well, this is where he says they have 9 level designers in total, 5 in Warsaw, I think is the studio he's at, and then 4 in Krakow. But he says they work really closely with the other teams, which I imagine, is just essential. The quest teams, the gameplay team, the environment, the art, story. There's so much that goes into making such a huge project, and he says basically it's all about communication. And they have to consider, what can a netrunner do? What can we hack? What can be used as a distraction? You got to account for the player that wants to go in guns blazing. You've got to account for the player that wants to go in with a more stealthy or diplomatic approach. And they have to get from point A to point B. You give them all these different options. And then I'm quoting here, so that was all kind of paraphrasing what he said. But he concludes, it's firstly about understanding what the point of that mission is. What's the story and how do we tell it? Secondly, it's about what's available to us in terms of mechanics, and obviously communicating with art on making it look much better and how all that ties into the previous elements. Yeah, so a very, very involved process. One that you think, like, when you play a well-designed level, you almost don't even think about it because it just runs so smoothly and everything's great and you're just immersed in the world. And you don't always think about all of the work and thought and planning that went into making this level part of this game. So a lot of work goes into there. So toss a coin to your level designer. All right, let's see here. So they talk a bit about where they get, where they're, what kind of resources they use, and they of course rely heavily on the tabletop games as a source for, information about the game and what they can build and what they can put into it and that kind of a thing. This was an interesting question though. How does the world building process differ from The Witcher 3? And Max replies, it's definitely very different when you think about The Witcher and the different kinds of places you can visit, Skellige, Novigrad, etc. There was these different places with different cultures, whereas in Cyberpunk everything takes place within Night City. So he says for them it's about making sure that each kind of sub-district has its own vibe and also understanding how the city is built. Last year we showed you Pacifica and how that is desolate compared to Watson. And that's because cities need funding, and due to corruption and other factors, funding for that part of the city stopped. So it's elements like that, and also how a city layers itself because it's such a dense place. It's not going to spread out compared to The Witcher. It's about building up, as I'm sure you have noticed when you're driving through, because he's talking to somebody who played the game.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm sure you've noticed when you're driving through, you have all these different roads and buildings and alleys piled on top of one another. We definitely look around for architecture experience. We have urban planners who help us plan out the city and how it should feel like a real city, as well as allowing those gameplay opportunities. Very interesting. I remember talking about that a long time ago, how they have actual city planners working with them on the design of Night City. But again, confirming the verticality of the environments, just how you're going to have, roads going over top of roads and buildings with a ton of different levels to them. I mean, this is a world with mega buildings that are almost self-contained cities in and of themselves. So verticality it's probably the most vertical game, that we're going to see, aside from, maybe Tetris. All right. Any thoughts so far before I continue?
No, 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 I'm good.
Good.
All right, looks to me like we have another super chat, and I'm trying to bring it up to read it, but
It was Max. Max said, "Hey, Cyb, nice pants. What's the drop rate?"
shout out to Max. Always fun to have him around.
Max, we so if there's enough of us who are gonna, jump into World of Warcraft and experience the new expansion in a couple months and create a tight online community, we might be able to tempt him to come back. So we all need to start chanting, "One of us, one of us." No, we're not taking it that seriously, guys. We're not taking it that seriously. We're going in. I've got a very cool announcement coming up very shortly. Might happen tomorrow, might happen later tonight. But yeah, we've got a cool announcement that happens to kind of revolve around some WoW stuff, and it's very cool. Again, I understand WoW is not for everybody, and you don't have to feel, definitely never feel pressure to jump in just because we're doing something. But we are going to be doing a lot of stuff with Warcraft this year. Mostly this fall, not necessarily on YouTube, but it'll mostly be kind of a streaming side. Just kind of like some of the games that we really enjoy. But we're going to be doing a bunch of content there. And yeah, if you guys are interested, again, if you're interested and you want to jump in, let me know. We've got a bunch of friend invites. So like friend activation, stuff like that, and that helps us, that helps you guys. And if anybody's interested in it, hit me up, hit Moon up. We'll get you some of those invites. Yeah, so it's interesting. Why not EverQuest 2? Mostly because EverQuest 2, there's nothing big happening there right now. Whereas there is something really big happening with WoW, and they're taking the time to actually listen this time. And I personally want to encourage that behavior because I'm worried, that the gaming community is in danger of falling apart, and the way that we prevent it from falling apart is going out of our way to make sure that we reach out and communicate with people. So, and it really kind of stems from the whole Recful thing. So if you're interested in that, again, hit us up for some invites. We're going to be doing stuff. We're going to be trying stuff, and it's going to be interesting. Big announcement coming. This is super huge. So yeah.
Okay, just going to read a little bit more from the Max Pierce interview because this was a really interesting. One of the final questions they asked. Max talks about setting a benchmark and making a mark on the cyberpunk genre and on the open world genre, and he talks about how in a lot of ways they're competing with themselves. They're competing with The Witcher 3, which of course was a huge success, and it's an incredibly popular game. People spend hours and hours and hours in that game exploring. It really did it did set a benchmark for open world RPGs. And, despite not having a character creator, very, very popular game. And, I mean, that's not a game-breaking thing for everybody, just for Cyb. But anyway, I'm just kind of trying to paraphrase, so I'm not just reading word for word too much. But he says, yeah, there's some aspect of competition with other studios. No bad blood or ill will. But they're definitely trying to set a benchmark. They're definitely trying to make a mark. And I mean, they've got a lot to live up to with The Witcher 3, right? To push it past that is going to be quite an accomplishment. But this idea of competing with themselves, I thought was very interesting. Because they're not. It's good that they don't just have an attitude of sort of riding out the success of their previous game, and just kind of letting them carry that forward, but actually trying to surpass that. I like that attitude. Yeah. And then just finally, this was kind of funny. The interviewer asked, so we've talked about trying to cater to different playstyles and builds and including as many interactive elements as possible that must create headaches for the technical team. Do they ever ask you to tone it down a bit? And he's like, yeah, and I just put all those emails in the spam folder. It's as a joke. He says it's obvious. Then he says seriously, it's obviously a constant discussion about rules, regulations, how to make things work for the tech, but we've got some really incredible minds working on it, which makes my job easier. And like I say, communication is key. We just make sure we're constantly talking. So yeah. Very cool article from Edge Magazine. Lots of awesome artwork, plus a very detailed outline of their experience playing the game and their impressions of being in Night City. So I would definitely, if you have the chance to check that out, definitely do if you can. All right, you're listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast, and we love the active conversation going on in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members about all the things we love to talk about. Lots of streams and conversations happening there. Stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. You can also give us, you can also let us know what you'd like us to talk about on the channel. So, I'm going to be going through some of those today that we got yesterday when I asked for, I wanted to know what you wanted to hear about on the podcast. Got quite a few responses. Can't get to them all, sadly, but we'll definitely get to the ones we can. It's going to be kind of a rapid fire segment for the rest. Oh yes, and slam that like button if you haven't already. We'd really appreciate that. It's going to be a bit of a rapid fire segment for the next little bit as we go through a bunch of news stories. But Saib, you were going to say something?
Yeah. So I'll put. You going to talk about the internet?
The
outage that happened.
The outages. I wasn't going to specifically, but if you want to, go ahead.
Well, one of our commenters, and I can't remember who it was, did point out that there's been a lot of flooding in China, and that's caused a lot of damage to a lot of server farms. So there's been that, but there's also been some other stuff, and there's some other shadier stuff going on too. So there's all kinds of stuff going on with that. Expect to see more interesting outages, or very famous people tweeting out links to send them money through Bitcoin so that they can send you money. So much money.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Send me some money. I'll send you back more money because I have a magic money making fairy machine. I put in $1, it spits out $2 because economics. All right, anyway. So obviously be careful. And, it's kind of scary that somebody was able to, literally take over the Twitter accounts of the former president of the United States and a guy running for the presidency. Like, the damage that could be done if someone got a hold of all those accounts and just started tweeting stuff is pretty mind-blowing. So,
like, just from the panic factor alone, because and again, I'm shocked that like most people don't verify this stuff. So
yeah. So yeah, even beyond the money scams, there's a lot of concern there. But anyway, all right, a few other news items to talk about. So Microsoft is merging Xbox Game Pass with its Project xCloud. which is a streaming service. So they're basically giving a gigantic middle finger to Stadia and saying, "Hey, yeah, guess what? We have got a streaming service too, and it actually has games on it." So that's interesting. So Game Pass, of course, subscription service where you can just play a whole bunch of Xbox games, either on your console. I believe it's available on PC as well. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong about that. But now that they're merging that with their xCloud streaming service, you'll be able to play your Game Pass games like wherever you want, on tablets, on your phone, whatever. Just get an Xbox controller and you can play your games wherever. Now, of course, it's going to have some of the same limitations that Stadia has, honestly. Like, if we're honest about it, there's going to be, hello, kitty.
Hello, kitty. We're going to have a pet cam for that too. That's going to be pretty fun going forward.
So yeah, lost train of thought there. You're gonna have some similar limitations with connection. You're gonna need a solid connection and stuff like that. So there will be some limitations. It's not this be all and end all solution. That
and I mean it's the whole concept behind game streaming. It's like this is this like first kind of gen stuff, and we're gonna see it improve over the years. But I mean, a lot of people don't like that concept of like, not having it when suddenly your internet goes down, right? And a lot of people like their offline games, so I don't think this is ever going to be a moneymaker. But I definitely think, like, not for a few years yet, but I do think that it'll start to open some doors to some unique, interesting concepts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just
and
having
definitely
it as
a cheaper option.
Sure, and I mean you can combine it under their ultimate subscription pass, at least at the top tier of their subscription, they're combining it as a single service. So if it's just kind of an added option where you have your games at home and they're on your device, but they're on your PC, they're on your Xbox, but when you're on the road or whatever, you can pick up your device and play them. And it's carrying over your save files and all of that. That's just a great added option, a great quality of life thing. It may not work if you're, up at the cabin at the lake, but if you're in a hotel in a city somewhere, and you don't want to haul your Xbox with you, you can play your games. That's just as a supplement, I guess is what I'm saying. As a supplement, it works. As a platform on its own, like what Stadia is trying to do, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But as a supplement, like there have been times when I've been on the road or I've been away somewhere, and I'm like, man, I'd love to play my whatever game, just to kick back for a bit, but obviously don't have access to it. So, yeah, just a cool little thing that you can, if you're interested, that you can do. But just another way that Microsoft just seems to really have a gamer-focused, player-focused, business plan.
Their event coming up here in a few days is going to be monumentally huge, like really, really huge. So I'm very interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, that's this Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just bring up the schedule here. So, Thursday, June 23rd. Yes, so this Thursday, the Xbox Games Showcase starts at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern. And even if you're not an Xbox gamer, if you're a PC gamer, you're going to be seeing a lot of stuff. There will be a lot of stuff there that's relevant to you as well. Most Xbox games are also coming to PC these days. Yeah. And we're going to be seeing some cool stuff. We should be seeing some stuff with Halo Infinite. Mm-hmm. Wording English today, not goodly. And there's, there's rumors that we're going to be seeing some Cyberpunk stuff with the I saw
absolutely nothing has been confirmed, but
nothing
we
confirmed,
keep hearing these
but
rumors.
I did see, and I haven't seen it since, but I saw a recut trailer. Or it was a Cyberpunk trailer I had not seen before as an ad on YouTube. It didn't have anything new in terms of content, but it was recut. There might have been one new dialogue line. I'm not 100% sure, though. And I couldn't find it since, but it was an Xbox-branded Cyberpunk 2077 trailer. And it just made me think, I wonder if they're going to show something. They've, at the Xbox event about Cyberpunk.
Mm-hmm.
And especially considering the, they have a history of working together for revealing stuff, the famous thing where the entire E3 glitched out at the Xbox showcase, and you could tell like the guy presenting on stage was kind of you could almost tell he was anticipating something, but yeah. Anyway, it's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
we could see something, but regardless of whether or not we see Cyberpunk or not, we'll be doing live coverage, and we should see some cool stuff. So check it out. Even just come and hang out, even if you're not an Xbox gamer. All right, a few other things we wanted to get to today. There was a few other topics that you had requested we talk about, you being the audience. So Ghost of Tsushima is out, and a reaction to it seems to be pretty good. At least it seems that way. The biggest criticism I've heard is that it starts to feel a little repetitive after a while. Mm-hmm. But the immersion of the game is apparently wonderful. Like apparently it's super immersive and just a really great game all around. In fact, so Funky Horn is one of our Discord members who's been streaming the game, and he put this comment. He was like, I'm playing stealth. I was attacking a camp. I was in dire need of a heal, so I hid in the bush, and then took the time to light up a cigarette. Outside the game, right? Like IRL. And at that moment, I thought, frack, the lighter is going to give me away. And this is a testament to the immersion the game achieves. So I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That is really cool. This is stuff we want to hear more about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Sadly, I haven't. Have either of you been able to check out some of the gameplay? I have not, unfortunately.
Not too much yet.
Not yet. Mostly just looking over the pictures that they've posted.
Mm-hmm.
It looks beautiful, and I'm so excited to dive into it.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah, it's one I've had my eye on because it does look interesting. I don't have a PlayStation, so probably won't be playing it for a while. But I do find it the idea that it does not have a HUD, and that apparently the wind guides you where you're supposed to be going. Things like that, like just little really in-game immersive little mechanics. I think that's really cool.
We used to call that the Force.
The Force?
The Force will guide us.
Yes. I don't know how well that would work in an ancient Japanese setting, but although a lot of people have been comparing it to Star Wars.
I mean, he got his idea for Star Wars from Japanese.
Well, that's true, yeah. Yeah, okay. So anyway, there's a lot of opinions about it posted on our Discord server, and I'm sure you can also watch. There's gameplay available, etc. But yeah, I can't give a first-hand opinion on it right at the moment. But it is sounding like it was pretty good. Maybe a little repetitive.
Yeah.
Sober667 wanted us to talk about Dr. Disrespect. Well, we don't know much.
We don't know anything more than anybody else knows.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, he did break his silence recently, and it sounds like he's got stuff on the go. He's not going away. He's planning something. So we still don't know why he was banned from Twitch.
Which
Don't
is
even know if
still
he knows
shocking.
why, but
Well, he said in a recent interview, he said that no, he was still not informed as to why he was banned, and most of us think that like my theory on it is that he was banned because they just wanted to move in a different direction. They don't like his character. He creates problems for them from time to time. They don't want to deal with him if they can, like swap him over for, because Ninja just became available to sign a big contract, bunch of other stuff, and it's like, yeah, maybe that's what they're going for. Maybe that's what they want to do. Maybe they don't want to deal with him anymore, and instead they're more set on like basically being able to just brush him away and then do whatever they want with whatever. So
that's the unfortunate thing,
with
is
somebody
that,
new,
like, these platforms they're starting to, rather than just being open platforms where success is achieved organically, they're starting to pick winners and losers now. They're starting to absolutely manipulate things behind the scenes to decide
if
who
you want
becomes
to kill
successful.
your platform, that's a great way to do it.
No, this is
Dumb pieces of garbage.
probably not going to start, because people don't like that. People get annoyed when they're trying to find the content from the creators, the type of content they like, or content specifically from the creator that they want to follow. Then and the platform's just not serving it up because they want to be like, no, look over here, watch this instead, and it's like, no, F you, show me what I want to see. Yeah, I mean, as soon as an alternative becomes available, people are going to move there, because you're there to serve the viewers, really. If people like watching Dr. Disrespect, and you choose not to give that to them, well, they're gonna go wherever he goes, because I mean, he's got a big following. So I have a hard time understanding the intelligence of that decision, if that's indeed the case.
Well, it also boils down to this idea and this concept that is really, truly, again, truly horrifying. It really is. It's so horrifying that that there are companies out there who like, Dr. Disrespect is not a serious character.
No,
It's
God.
a character. It's a joke. It's not meant to be taken seriously. But there are a lot of people out there in the marketing world who, they're like, oh my God, we can't. He's super serious on this. It's like, no, he's not. He's playing up a character. It's like,
Yeah, that's
I don't
not
know.
him. His name is not. He's not a guy with the last name Disrespect who got a PhD. He's it's a character he's playing. It's the same logic that my parents used to not let me watch The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't think
and how did that go over? Like, seriously, how did that go over for them?
Oh, I snuck away and watched it when they weren't looking. I knew.
It just made it more enticing.
Well, exactly.
Like,
and
more interesting.
It'd be on at my cousin's house, and I'd watch it there, and it'd be like, this is funny, and it's like, no, I'm not gonna start talking back to you. I'm not gonna get a slingshot and a skateboard and start riding around town telling people to eat my shorts. Like, come on.
Oh,
It's
wait a
actually
second.
kind of funny. I wasn't able to watch it either growing up, so I watched The Simpsons for the first time as an adult. And that was interesting, just watching production, because since I wasn't waiting for it week by week, or I just watched it kind of just binged it really. So to go from the initial sort of writing setup, which actually was pretty wholesome, but then to watch it kind of, I wouldn't say devolve, but evolve into the state that it is right now, because it sparks conversation.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Yeah, I definitely don't watch it anymore, but Futurama's better.
I love Futurama too.
Anyway, so yes, Dr. Disrespect not going away, but yeah, he's off Twitch, and Nobody knows why. There are people claiming they know why, but who knows if they actually know why.
There is somebody who keeps claiming, "Oh, I know exactly what's going on here," and then he doesn't say it. And I've got to call this person out. They're full of bull.
Yeah.
And the reason why that they're not actually coming out and actually saying anything concretely is because they know they would be sued if they did. And again, justifiably so, because this is ridiculous, right? It really is quite ridiculous.
Yeah. All right.
I really dislike the people who are like, oh, I know what so and so did. It's like, you gossipy bee. Like, really? Is there nothing better that you can do with your time? Like, nothing better to do with your time than to make these like crass like comments when, again, you don't like, okay, you might know for sure, but here's the thing. If if what had happened was like, a jailable offense, Doctor wouldn't be doing what he's doing. He wouldn't be talking about new shows. He wouldn't be doing this. And you say, well, he's doing that to, make his reputation, hold out. No. If you're doing this, you're like, this is totally different. Totally different. You're not in the same category anymore. Not with this. So it's interesting. and it's definitely not something my prediction is that it's not a jailable offense. But there are people insinuating that it is. But if it's a jailable offense, again, you don't have people reacting. You don't have Doctor saying the things that he's saying. Like, that's not something you would say in that regard. What I am seeing from all of the lawyers involved and from everybody involved is that they're approaching this essentially from a perspective of wanting of just like it's a contract negotiation or removal, and they're chasing after a different fan or a different section. Like, we've seen this with television shows. We saw this with Megyn Kelly twice. We saw this with with Bill O'Reilly. We saw this with lots of the talk show, late night talk show hosts. We've seen this time and time again. It's like this kind of stuff happens all the time. All the time. And yeah, it's not that same perspective. Polly's 911, thank you for the super chat. It's super awesome. Folks like Dr. Disrespect are a goldmine for a company who are willing to let them stream or post things that are not PC or SJW friendly. Streamers like that is what people want to see for entertainment. And yeah, it's like, and I want to bring this point up. It's like insult comics. Like, you don't idolize an insult comic because he's an insult comic and he knows how to like make people feel bad. Like, you don't. That's. I don't know anybody who goes, I was watching some guy who was telling people that they were all garbage, and I just want to be like that person, so I'm going to tell you that you're garbage. It's like, that's not how that works. Russell Peters, that's his name, right? Ash, the
Russell
Canadian...
Peters, Russell Peters is a comedian, yeah.
Yeah. So Russell Peters is a very offensive comedian. And I don't know anybody, like, his comedy, same with a couple others. It's not something that people walk around, like, repeating that much. Like, they'll tell it to their closer friends if they think it's really funny, but in the vast majority of cases that I've seen, they're not like, oh my goodness, this guy said something that can be misconstrued as like really insulting, so I'm going to say it to people. It's like, I don't see that very often. I really don't. And I think, again, that the comedy falls into this thing where it's like they're just telling jokes, and they're meant to be crass and shocking, but you're not supposed to take them seriously. And anybody who walks out of like, that entertainment circle and then uses that's always like, people are like, what do you, like, stop. No, that's not for this. This is neither the time nor the place, and that's like that because it's not those things. Like, his character is not something that you don't put on a wig, sunglasses, walk down the street and just start doing what he does. That's not what that character, that humor is for. It's for people to sit and laugh, like the scenes from, like the bloody scenes from Game of Thrones, right? It's exactly like that. This is a far better example. The scenes of Game of Thrones and like the murders and the backstabs, that stuff that you watch for entertainment. You don't encourage people to like host a bloody wedding. Like, hey, let's get a whole bunch of people together for a wedding and then kill a bunch of them. It's like nobody does that. And it's the same thing with this comedy. It's it's ridiculous. It's supposed to be ridiculous, and it's there for that purpose. So yes, Polly's 911. I think that was what you were getting at, and I I wholly affirm, because comedy is supposed to be like fantasy, like drama, like murder episodes, like all the crime investigation shows and crime thrillers. It's not because we're glorifying crime. It's the same thing with the attitude. The only thing is that so it's easier to replicate that than to replicate a mass murder from not a mass murder. What's a Dexter? What's he called? It serial killer, psychopath. Yeah, psychopathic serial killer. It's like obviously way harder to way harder to do that. Like absolutely for sure. But at the same time, it's two completely different things. So yeah,
right, and that does that doesn't mean you have to like it.
No, you don't have to like crass humor. Crass humor is crass humor.
It's personal, but I mean, humor is supposed to push boundaries. That's an aspect that I feel is getting more and more lost. Is that this
so
idea?
sad.
Yeah. It's like we've got to put these boundaries and make them tighter and tighter around what's acceptable as far as what's funny, and then you just get the cringiest attempts at humor possible because everyone is afraid to offend anybody, and that therefore nothing's funny. Anyway,
Right? It's like the beauty of freedom of speech and such is like you can choose to not listen. Right? You always have the option to switch to something else that you like. Like even take like watching The Office, for example. It was so hard for me to watch at first seeing Michael Scott. Like it actually made me angry at the beginning because I was like, what is with this person? Why are they acting like this? And so it took me some time to warm up to the show to understand, it's a character. Because I was taking it very, very seriously because he's very, very good at, oh my God.
It's serious dry comedy, right?
Right?
And it's like no, we don't actually think that. Like I would never encourage anybody to treat anybody like how Michael treats the PR guy. What's his name? The PR guy.
Toby. Yeah.
Like it's like you never treat anybody like that. That's so rude.
It really
But
is.
it's like it's there to be funny in the way that Dwight and Jim go at it. It's like you can't actually replicate that in an actual off. Oh, I mean, if you did, you deserve going to HR for a disciplinary.
Well, yeah. There's no way any of this would really. Nobody would get away with almost anything that any of those people do in a real office setting.
Right?
It's exaggerated. It's supposed to be over the top. Even though it's like dry and deadpan, but the situations are larger than life. Yeah, like that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to take us out of real life. No one wants to watch a show that's an actual documentary about working at a paper company. People want to come home from their job at the paper company and watch a show that's making fun of it and making funny situations and being like, oh man, and laugh. And just be, escape for a little while and be like, oh, wouldn't it be great if life were like that, maybe, but not, then they're less stressed and happier when they go to their job tomorrow. Like, that's what it's supposed to be. Escapism, people. Escapism. That's what... We can't lose that, or life is going to suck. All right. Just a couple other things before we wrap up. A couple of you asked about Dead Island 2 and Game Deck. Now, I did a quick search on Game Deck yesterday and didn't find anything new about it.
Yeah.
With any substance. So,
no, it's still she's still heavily under production. It's obviously still going to be a little bit before we start to see anything super concrete. What they have coming so far is like it's really cool, but it's also the engine that's cool in that. So I'm very excited for it, but it's going to take a little bit more time. Probably see something about it. I would say for sure probably at the Xbox show, for like not 100%, but probably like well north of 50. We'll probably see something there because it is a game that's been growing more interest. I'm really excited. So I think we're going to see something awesome from. We're going to see so much stuff, really good stuff coming from the Xbox showcase. Like my goodness, it's going to be probably is going to be one of the biggest game showcases you have ever seen and you'll ever see for the next like 3 years. I really actually believe that. As far as just how the setup's been going so far and how they've been maneuvering closer and closer and closer to stuff, it's like I really feel that we're headed towards a massive, massive show with Microsoft because this is their time to pull ahead and to showcase what they've got. And they've bought out, it's been 2-3 years since they've been buying out studios left and right. And what do you think a lot of those people were in the middle of their cycle. We're needing more money and we're needing more experienced people. And Microsoft came in, bought up a ton of these studios. In a lot of the cases, the announcement was like it had been 6 months or more. In one case, it was almost a year since they had been bought out. And it was announced then. So now you fast forward like 2.5 years, it's like they've been working on something for 3 years. Something big for 3 years. Not just them, the dozen of other studios that they bought as well. It's like all of this stuff is coming to it's seriously coming down to it.
Yeah.
And yeah. No, this is awesome. This is truly awesome.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. We will be doing live coverage of the Xbox Showcase on Thursday. That's when it is. Thursday, July 23rd. Starts 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern time. We will announce what we're doing as far as if we're doing a pre-show or anything. We'll announce that on the Discord server as soon as we've got that hammered out. All right. And then somebody also asked about. It was Ghost MD asked about Game Deck. Xmax asked about Dead Island 2. It says the PC build for the 2015 demo leaked a few months ago, and not sure if the game is going to ever see the light of day. I don't know anything about that myself. Cyb?
It's I mean they've had a bit of a troubled. They've gotten into a little bit of development hell. It's rough. It's really, really honestly rough because they were going to, have this release, but then they went and they tried to overhaul it, and then their overhaul took longer than they wanted it to, then other things, and then other things, and then other things, and then other things. That's what happens.
So it might not.
And that's what happens.
It might not ever see the light of day.
Yeah.
But we don't know anything concrete.
Right now it's like if we hear something by if we hear something solid before at the Microsoft Game Show, there's a good chance that we're gonna see it, obviously. If we hear nothing at the Microsoft Game Show at all, considering that the PlayStation one's already passed and everything else is kind of like is kind of passing, and this is the big kind of like this is one of their big last chances to showcase something, then I think we can say for sure that it's in development hell and that it's stuck. And I don't think that's a good thing. And you probably won't be getting your game anytime soon. I hate to say it, but that's probably the case.
Yeah.
So
Blood Rain Vampire 1 asks, do you think we'll get some Cyberpunk stuff at Xbox? Well, we touched on this briefly earlier, but there's nothing concrete, nothing for sure that we know of. But we suspect that, I think there will be, and I suspect there's a good chance we'll see something Cyberpunk related, just based on a few little things here and there that I've picked up on. So but nothing. We don't have any inside info or anything like that, so nothing's been announced. But I think we will, but that's not a for sure.
Yeah.
Lady Reaver asks, where did Moontag go? Good question. Where is Moontag? She's still here somewhere.
Yeah.
She was typing for a second.
She mutes herself she's interacting in chat. She's been super helpful behind the scenes, letting us know when a super chat popped up, things like that. So she's here. She's busy. She's doing stuff, being helpful. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, we're going to wrap up right away here, but I do want to let everybody know that the interview we did with Des Mephisto last Saturday, we had talked with him about autism, especially autism in adulthood, and also World of Warcraft speed leveling. It was a really great conversation, and a lot of you reacted super positively to it. A lot of you were very affected by it emotionally, because we know there's a lot of people in our audience who are autistic or have people who are, who they are close to who have autism and or on the spectrum in some way. Anyway, it was a very raw, very real conversation, a really good conversation. I've turned it into its own video that's available on our channel now. If you want to listen to it, I kind of edited and cleaned it up a bit. So slightly edited, but I didn't remove any of the content of it. So it's just over half an hour, and if you want to listen to that and use it to share around, if there's other people you think should listen to it, would definitely recommend doing that. So you can find that on the channel now. It was released just a few hours ago, so definitely check that out. And if you haven't heard it and you are in any way affected by autism, if you're whether if you deal with it yourself or if someone close to you does, I would definitely recommend listening to it, hearing what Des Mephisto has to say. He's got some insight on things. He's got a charity that he recommends supporting, and you may or may not know that Obsidian is also on the spectrum. So it was great talking to both of these guys about what their experience has been like with this issue. As children, and not being diagnosed with it until adulthood. So definitely check that out. Lady Reaver saying more Moontag and her cats on podcast, please. Moontag, I think we'll definitely have you back if you want to join us again.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being with us today and giving us your thoughts on Gamer Girl and other stuff.
Glad to share.
And for the rest of you, thank you so much for the great conversation in the chat. Thank you for listening and supporting the show by watching after the fact or live. Don't forget to slam that like button before you leave. Really appreciate that. It shows YouTube that you appreciate this content. I want to give a special thank you to our Patreon supporters and our channel members who help to make this content possible. Our big damn heroes on Patreon: Robin, Shua82, Timebean, Schoolaman, Lady Reaver, and our 2 anonymous supporters at that level, plus we have a few more at the lower tiers. Thank you all so much. Our channel members on YouTube: Mr. Pazernik, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, Terror K, and Somnolence. Appreciate all of that. Also appreciate those of you who listen, share, like, comment, all of that stuff. That helps us out. Really appreciate it. And if you're listening after the fact on the audio-only platforms, well, we appreciate your interactions there as well. But don't forget, you can join us for the live show on Wednesdays and Saturdays and be a part of the discussion, interact with us, and all of that, interact with other listeners. Please also join the Discord server if you haven't already. It's a great place, great conversations, lots of awesome stuff going on there. It's also just a very positive, supporting community, and we're working hard to keep it that way. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cyb and Moontag, thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon.